Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome along to El Podcastio de... I don't know what sofa is in Italian. Do you know what sofa is in Italian?
Oh, it's still sofa.
The Sofa Managerial Podcastia. Aha, yes?
E.
Bene, molto bene.
Benissimo.
Benissimo. As you can tell, myself and my compatriot never learnt a word of Italian.
No.
Despite visiting the country, I never laughed at any attempts I have. But on episode Nuvolare Quattro,
I'll take your word for it.
94? I don't know.
94.
There's 9 Nuvolari? I think I've probably made that up. Episode 94 of the Sofa Manager Scottish Football Podcast. We are going to be discussing It's Coming Rome for a start. We will discuss the UEFA Euro 2020. I nearly said UEFA Cup there. The UEFA Euro 2020 final. Our thoughts behind that. We watched the game somewhat together virtually, so we'll talk about that experience. Some of the things surrounding the match. Where England might have gone wrong, as well as some of the fans barricading through. They actually released figures as to how far off the attendance actually was, which was interesting. So they are investigating. We'll see what comes from that. And also, much as we did last week, we will be reviewing some of the new kits in Scottish football and discussing some of the attendance limits and things like that that are in place at the moment, what that's likely to look like to go back into the stadium, so on as well. And we may or may not get to other things such as the Europa Conference League, some transfer news, and so on and so forth. Anyway, joining me for this podcasting. Right, okay. I'll work on that. This week is our Italian correspondent in his Juve top, I see there. Is John Brown. Hello, John.
Hello, Paul. How are we?
I'm good. Is that the new Juventus logo out of interest, or is it the old Juventus logo on the shirt?
It is.
Oh, it's the new one. There you
It's
go.
the new one. I'm not a big fan of the new one, but I'm not paying £100 for the old tops, so
Right.
never mind. One of many to choose from.
3 stars on that. I actually have a big discussion as to stars in football kits, which I'd like to discuss later on. Along with some funny graffiti I've actually seen along the canal, which I've not told you about. That's a random side. And myself, Paul, in his Italian touristy shirt bought from Rome Ciampino Airport, which is like the B-grade secondary one that Fly Globespan were flying to at the time. Remember Fly Globespan? Good times. This episode is in no way endorsed by them, as they no longer exist. Anyway, shall we get straight on with things?
That's fine on. Yep.
Right. First things first. It did not come home. Was that a surprise to you, John? Did you think they were going to do it?
I was beginning to worry significantly that they were going to make it. They were going to do it. It was coming home. But they lost it in the best fashion possible. Like,
yeah,
take everything else out of it. Losing on penalties after going beyond the 5th penalty to lose it is just magnifico, brilliant, absolutely superb. Loved every last second of it.
Yeah, I think even during the game, like the first half was basically theirs. Italy didn't really give them too much trouble in that period of time. And I think they'll be disappointed that they are very conservative when they go a goal up. But we'll get to Southgate's decisions and things like that a bit later on. You, at the time the penalties were taken, you said that I think Belotti or was it Jorginho? Or Belotti missed it, didn't he?
Jorginho missed. Jorginho in his kind of trademark skip and then taking the hit. Just in that environment, I just knew he was going to miss. Like, I don't know why, I just had that kind of gut feeling.
Yeah.
And I thought at that point, actually, England were going to do it. If England were going to break every kind of possible duck to this tournament, it was to win the final on penalties. The fact that it hasn't happened, it's just joyous. Absolutely joyous.
I think so. probably actually the weakest penalties that we've seen in the competition thus far. Ironically, it's just bizarre Southgate's choice, and I know this has been touched on by a lot of people today, in terms of the choice of penalty takers. One thing I would draw in particular is the sort of late substitution of Sancho for Jordan Henderson. I'm thinking Henderson's probably got a bit more metal about him, as much as we criticise his ability, but he's, captain of Liverpool. He'd take a penalty, and I sincerely doubt Jadon Sancho's taking the penalties for Dortmund, is he?
Yeah, it was a little bit kind of strange. We knew at the time when those substitutions were made that was the sole intention of getting these guys in the park.
Mm-hmm.
I think we were both quite surprised when we were kind of chatting through the game that I'd made that substitution for Henderson. I know Henderson's missed big penalties in the past, so I don't know if maybe that's been a kind of predetermined arrangement. To kind of say, like, he's maybe admitted that he's maybe not got the kind of ball to take it, and that's fair enough. You're better to kind of do that than not like step up and make an even bigger mess. Again, as we kind of said during the game, it was amazing that he picked an 18, 19-year-old to take such a penalty in such an environment. And this is before any of the kind of abuse that's started to appear online. It was just from a footballing perspective, it was such a weird thing to do. Obviously, you can't criticise Saka or Rashford or Sancho for taking any of the penalties. If they put their hand up and says, "I want to take a penalty," that's not on them. That's on Southgate to make the decision as the manager and say, "I actually want X, Y, and Z to be taking those penalties."
Mm-hmm.
He's obviously not done that. He's went with the kind of feeling within the group, and again, nothing really wrong with that. You can criticise it because of the event that's happened, but it just so strange, and it will be kind of pointed to for a long, long time to say, why did you let a teenager take a penalty in a European Cup final when so much was on the line?
I do think, like, Saka in particular essentially felt like the England poster boy of that tournament. He came out really well in a lot of the interviews and things like that. He was a big success story. And I think if that penalty were to win the Euros, it would have made slightly more sense than the sort of reverse of that, which was to keep them in the sort of penalty run. And when you've got, it was the likes of Grealish and stuff like that kicking about there. Probably the best penalty of the lot was probably Maguire's.
Maguire's absolutely rocket and took out the camera. I mean, that was the best penalty out of all of it.
And I think, like Chiellini didn't fluff his lines for his penalty as well. So the good thing about the way the defenders take their penalty is there's no faffing about in their head for what I'm going to do, what my run-ups. I am just going to blast this as hard as I possibly can. And that's your most likely chance of success. And I do think that's where people like Rashford and things can come in for a bit of criticism. I've heard people say he was trying to be a little bit Pogba-esque, perhaps, and the way he took that. Now, as you say, all that's now overshadowed from the abuse that took place online and the tremendous reaction to that. Which is fantastic to see, but it does kind of distract everyone from the fact that it feels like in the media cycle we have immediately moved on from this loss. And Scotland fans will want it to live slightly longer in the memory, and they seem to be in attendance as well, with a number of excellent banners on show. We had I'm here for the Italian job, I think, from Scotland was one of them.
Yep, we'll be back.
We'll be back. Yeah. The Mrs. Grealish 69 has also been floating around.
Yeah, that was very strange.
I don't know if that was Mrs. Grealish. Like, I don't know.
Still convinced that was a Manchester United top.
Oh, it was definitely a Man United top. The thing about it, it might be this year's Aston Villa away kit. Who knows what that even looks like? But I remember in the past, I think Ryan Jack's wife used to give some motivation, shall we say, on like Twitter. If her man were to score a goal against Celtic or something like that, and you're like, well, all well and good. So I don't know if that had the same connotations or what that was about. So, yes. Do you think they would have won the tournament if Southgate wasn't the manager? Or
yes. I do actually.
Oh, okay. I was just
No,
saying, or would they have done worse?
they would have done. It's a double-edged sword. It depends on who else would have been the manager. I think in terms of English managers, because I think I've always believed that your national coach should be of that nationality
Mhm.
to a greater extent. So I think Southgate is probably the best manager England can muster. But I think if they had a better quality manager, I think they would have won it because the talent pool that England have is phenomenal. Like I don't think we can kind of hide away from that. They are also quite likable, and that hurts a lot to say, but they are. You can kind of relate to one or two of them. Like there's not a lot of kind of egos in there. Um, they've done really well to kind of keep the media at arm's length, which again maybe you could maybe put that onto kind of Southgate. Maybe you can probably attribute a lot of that to Southgate. Actually, he's handled the media incredibly well. He's kept them far enough away to basically shitstorm their whole way through it,
Mhm.
as they would in literally every other tournament. That kind of thing comes through. He's done really well to stop that and foster a really good kind of team environment. It's just kind of tactically and one or two decisions throughout the tournament is kind of raises a few question marks, and then obviously the kind of selection for penalties again caused a few kind of questions. I think England could have been 2 or 3 nothing up in the first half of the game. You got to ask why not. So he's probably the man that'll keep the job for a while longer. He'll take them to Qatar. If they get to the semi-finals again, he'll take them to Germany for Euro 2024. Beyond a bit, quite whether he'll develop into anything beyond being an England manager, I don't think he would, to be honest. I think this is the absolute pinnacle of his career.
He's still got a lot of that career to remain. Yeah, I think that definitely in terms of depth, it was the strongest squad at the tournament. And it was frustrating at times, especially from their point of view, to see him not really delve into that. You know, Kane came in for quite a lot of criticism. And when you saw someone like Calvert-Lewin, who's had a really good season for
Yeah,
Everton, you think, well, it's not healthy to have a guy that feels unchallenged, as Kane probably did. And you probably think if he's not wearing that captain's armband, he probably doesn't start every game in that same manner. You know, Sancho and things like that was a disappointment as well. He kept using Grealish as his secret weapon, and that never really materialised in any great
yeah.
way. And it's like, well, just start him, get him into the game a little bit more, change something up. You know, like Rice and Phillips did a good job, but they weren't. I suppose their job wasn't really to go forward, and then playing Mount out of position in the last game was a weird decision because he'd been playing quite well.
Mhm.
Um, I thought as well, but yeah,
There's a few kind of tactical points that you can kind of look at and go, maybe wasn't correct. He didn't really recycle the squad as much as maybe some other nations did. Like you mentioned, Coverland could have came in for Kane at other spells, either in games or kind of at kind of larger points in the tournament
mm-hmm.
as a sub, or start the games, because Harry Kane did not look fit and he did not look in a kind of position at the beginning of the game, in the beginning of the tournament, to merit his like continual start. He did eventually manage to get that relationship with Sterling, but right at the start you're kind of thinking this guy needs at least a kind of game just to kind of take a bit of a breather and
Yeah.
get him kind of sort of back up to a little bit of fitness, just to see what you can kind of do with him. Would that have made a difference? Who knows? They took it as far as they could.
Yeah. At the end of the day, if you are going to win tournaments, everything needs to be spot on. They'll be so frustrated because they were so
That was
close.
the
So
biggest,
close.
and that was the best opportunity they'll have to win a tournament for a really long time.
Well, we will see. Argentina obviously winning the Copa America, which puts to bed my argument of Ronaldo being better than Messi because he's won an international tournament. So the only thing about either of them now is neither of them have won a World Cup.
I doubt
So,
either will, to be honest.
so that's interesting because I don't know. Like, if you look at the previous generation, like before Ronaldo and Messi, who was the best player in the world, like in the sort of early 2000s, late 90s? Ronaldo kind of comes to mind.
Ronaldinho, maybe. Ronaldinho was a standout bit
He did win the World Cup.
because of the skill. Yeah, anyway, he won the World Cup.
And then Ronaldo won the World Cup. And Zidane won the World Cup.
No,
unless
he won in '98. Because Italy won the 2006 World Cup. Zidane headbutted Materazzi.
I remember that.
He may have won it in '98.
I think he would have won it in '98. Right, let's see who the Ballon d'Or winners have been going back. So it's basically been Messi, Ronaldo, with interjections of, I think, Modric, who will never win.
Modric probably won it.
So Kaká won it in 2007, but that was a bit of a blip. Cannavaro won it in 2006.
That would be for the World Cup.
Shevchenko, 2004.
I mean, AC Milan winning Champions Leagues.
Well, to be fair, him getting Ukraine as far as they did in the tournament will feel like winning the World Cup. Pavel Nedved in 2003, Czech Republic.
He played for Juventus at the time as well, I imagine.
Yes, indeed. Ronaldo to Michael Owen. Michael Owen? Really? Okay, in 2001, Figo didn't win the World Cup.
No, Portuguese. Portugal never won the World Cup.
Did they win the Euros though? Or was it Greece? Who won the Euros in like 2000?
Greece won in 2004. They beat Portugal in the final. Remarkable. Portugal beat England in either the quarters or the semis.
Yeah. It's like Rivaldo and things like that, who also, I believe, won the World Cup. Let's check Zidane's honour. So you think he might not have won a World Cup? I
think if he won it, it was 98. Don't know if he's old enough.
He did win in 98, apparently. Yeah. Who knows what role he played in that squad at the time, because we were obviously very, very young. But anyway, that will hang over them for all their individual achievements. And, you know, it's not like Argentina or Portugal are bad teams.
No, I mean, Argentina had the best chance to win the World Cup in 2014. Mm-hmm. And they fluffed that against Germany. Mm. Portugal, obviously Ronaldo carries that team, and they, how can you kind of put it mildly, defended their way to Euro 2016.
Well, the thing about it is he also didn't really play much of the final.
He didn't play any of the final. He was injured after the 15 minutes. So it's hard to say whether maybe that puts Messi above Ronaldo. Who knows? It's an argument that will rage until the world implodes.
I hate the fact that you have to decide on one or the other. They are better at different times. They are better at different things. Therefore, not really that comparable. In other good news, Albion Rovers are 1-0 up against Falkirk, John. You'll be pleased to hear.
Excellent.
Fantastic news. I thought I'd share that with you. So that'll give it a clue as to the upcoming Falkirk season. We should do a preview for that at some point. Heaven knows what we'll talk about there.
I didn't pay attention. I don't want to know.
No, quite right. Also, there was some fan unrest ahead of the England match. So there was two things that obviously marred this game. Was the abuse that the players that missed the penalties received online, and hooliganism, as it's been described by a number of news outlets. And you sent us a clip. What clip did you send us again, John?
Oh, there was a few, to be fair. If take the kind of hooligan element first, there was the manner in which you were getting into Wembley from speaking to a man on the ground was you got to a certain barrier or certain kind of checkpoint, and it was to check your COVID sort of status. So you had to do a negative either a PCR or lateral flow test before you would kind of get past the first stage. Mm-hmm. Now, this is like literally a guy on minimum wage going, on you go, on you go. I'd be amazed if they were honestly checking that properly, particularly when they got to a busy point. You get beyond that stage, we get to another barrier, which would include like a metal detector and whatnot to try and get through, or it should have. They would check your QR code on your phone and they should scan it, and that activates your ticket.
Mhm.
It was getting to the point where it was so busy and like they were developing a crush basically that these guys were like just looking at it and going, "That's a QR code on you go." Because I honestly could have showed them my QR code for Wales United against Gillingham
Mhm.
from the Saturday, and I'm fairly confident I would have got through. Like,
Yeah.
just no way these guys could check 90,000 or 60,000, I should say. Sorry,
Well.
tickets. Well, this is the thing. So the video we kind of refer to is basically a crush. It's a group of how many guys would you say that was? About 300 or 400.
Yeah.
Just decided to kind of group together and push their way through one of the barriers. Wiped out the stewards. There was a couple of police officers who had like no hope whatsoever. I know these guys were effectively in the stadium and there was no way of getting them out.
No.
That happened all around Wembley. And if you've ever been to Wembley, it's quite open plan. So actually getting in the door, it's not that difficult. And that's scary. And they could have comfortably went over and above 90,000 people in that game, and it would have been a disaster.
Well, that's obviously a very scary thing. We know what happens in football stadiums once they are over capacity. As you say, they've got that like big drive that kind of leads up and funnels everyone in, and as a design point, that's maybe not the world's greatest idea.
I mean,
and the problem is once it's happened once, like let's say there's another Champions League final there in like a few years' time, who's to say that the same thing couldn't happen again? But
I mean,
I think they said in particular, there isn't an investigation ongoing, but there were at least 2,000 people and more in there for the penalties than there should have been, because by that time in the match there was like broken turnstiles and things like that people were just sneaking through, and I'm imagining at that point in the game security is just kind of clocked off.
I would imagine 2,000 is probably a kind of at the low level.
They have said it's a lower end estimation
could
at minimum.
Easy be 6,000 or 7,000, maybe pushing 10.
Yeah,
just the volume of people that would have chance it. And you're right. If you compare that now, the UK want to host the 2030 World Cup. Are you now looking at Wembley? God forbid England get to that final. You could have 500,000 people trying to pour into that stadium. Like, you just,
But then what do you do?
They set a benchmark.
You told these people if you don't have a ticket, don't turn up. They turned up anyway. How do you put in place a system that stops an army of 20,000 people trying to get through the door? Like,
well, I think two things were kind of happening here. Like, obviously, the restrictions on tickets. So it was well known that Wembley was going to have spare seats in it.
Yeah.
So if you bust your way in, there was a fair chance you could pretend that was your seat.
Yeah.
The second thing as well, there was no fan parks whatsoever. So there was no reason why you couldn't run the game at Wembley. 60,000 people, have fan parks in Hyde Park, St James's Park, Greenwich Park. There was loads and loads of places where you could have dispersed these mass crowds, and it would have been the same kind of atmosphere, only you were watching a big screen rather than watching the game in the stadium. That as a design it was a flaw, and that they should have done that. That would have broken up crowds. You would have been able to kind of control that a lot better, and it would have stopped a kind of rush on the stadium. You would have sort of dispersed a lot of the kind of people across the city rather than in one sort of central location.
I think that kind of happened in an unofficial way. The Trafalgar Square fan zone was still open, I think. So
again, that kind of feeds into it. So the Trafalgar Square was like a fan zone that was socially distanced.
Yeah.
And people still tried to rush it because there was nowhere else to go and watch the game. Pubs are full. There's no big screens. If you're drunk at your face and you're desperate to watch the game, where are you going to go? Oh, we'll just try and batter our way into Trafalgar Square. There's a big screen there.
See, that was also the problem because it was so late in the day. People were just bladdered before they even remotely get near the place. So that played a factor as well. And it's a shame that you almost have to think of it as like an Old Firm fixture. And, if that was at 12:30, the same antics wouldn't have occurred. But then you would have also not had the same audience that you probably would have reached in the record levels that they did. So we will see what comes out of this investigation, see what they do going forward. But it certainly was a stark reminder of how things used to be in the past.
Yeah, a little bit. We never experienced it, but you can imagine that's what it used to be like.
Well, I know. I don't know if you've got that far in your read of the Pat Nevin book, but he used to talk about going to Celtic Park, and they just used to lift the children over the turnstiles.
No, I'll kind of go that far. He talks about going to the European Cup semi-final against Leeds.
Yeah,
145,000 in Hampden. Again, you cannot comprehend that amount of people in that stadium. Like
he said that was scary though, didn't he? That like
yeah, I mean that was a year or 2 years before the Ibrox disaster, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of puts things into perspective a wee bit. I mean, modern stadiums aren't. I don't think that would kind of happen across the same level because it is seating, because it's a little bit more kind of, to a lesser degree, you can manage it.
Mm-hmm.
That's obviously dependent on how many people actually decide to charge a stadium. So,
I mean, if that were to happen at a stadium up here,
you're only 2,000 in there.
Well, no, there's only really. It depends on the turnstiles. Depending on where you go, are pretty difficult to get through. Like you can't. They're not like they're not like train station gates or anything. Like the ones pretty much everything I can think of are the big like bars that are like really restrictive. You're not jumping through. You're not going under it. Like unless that person turns it, you're just not going through.
Oh, kind of full height. I think the other kind of video, I don't know if you've seen it yourself with Wembley, is the guys bursting through what would be the kind of exit doors.
Right.
So they charge the doors. This thing kind of flies open and a couple of people kind of pour in, and they're getting booted to hell off the kind of England fans already in there.
Right.
And it's violent. It really is. I mean, it's English people fighting English people inside Wembley. It's very surreal to watch. It's hard to believe.
I think very much an embarrassment to.
It's an embarrassment to every other country for sure. Like,
I mean, we have this paradox at the moment where footballers are actually doing quite a lot of good in terms of, you've seen the Rashford campaign. I did like today that Tyrone Mings was calling out Priti Patel. I will always accept that from anybody, but his statements have had more gravitas than almost anyone else. So the left wing party could be becoming a thing of ex-former footballers, or right wing. I'm never really sure as to which is left and which is right.
It'd be left wing, but it brings on the kind of second point, I suppose, of the outcome of this is the kind of the racism and all of that kind of thing kind of follows through. It's quite difficult for us to kind of comment on, I think, because we obviously don't experience it, so it's really difficult to put yourself in their position. You can only look at it as a human being and go, it's disgusting behaviour.
Mm-hmm.
And again, as you kind of mentioned, Tyrone Mings, his kind of statement saying what he's kind of said to Priti Patel is spot on. Will she change her kind of mindset? Probably not. Mm-hmm. It's just the person that she unfortunately is. It's the same with Boris Johnson. The two of them are utterly hopeless elitists who never do anything to help anyone who doesn't earn $250,000 a year and owns property in the city of London. They couldn't care less about you.
Aye. Personally, I still like the idea of the left-winger party for retired footballers. I think that there's a genuine chance of governance with such a thing. Yeah, I think in terms of, we are kind of reaching a crescendo, and this keeps happening. And I actually don't know to what scale, but I know that J. Emmanuel Thomas, the Aberdeen striker, tweeted something at Jermaine Defoe the other day about congratulating him for a goal he scored in a friendly or something. And someone tweeted below like some monkey and banana emojis and stuff like that. And you're like, right. So this is happening. People out there are doing it. And they are doing it because they know they cannot be found out. And I think that things like taking the knee is a symbolic gesture that does show solidarity, but I don't think it does anything to actually address the problem from those that have it. And I think to address that problem, like in terms of a social media aspect, we need to have some sort of digital stamp that follows us around the internet in the same way that like a passport or something would, so that you cannot set up these accounts anonymously. You have to be able to be easily identified, so that what you're saying to someone is essentially the same thing as you would do face to face. Problem number two is there are people that would say these things face to face as well. And,
they would be easier to be prosecuted, though. That's the kind of difference.
It would, but it is the nature of football fans. We are always going to have, especially up here, we're always going to have sectarian issues. There are always going to be certain fan bases where there are racist issues. It just seems to be. I don't know what the solution is.
No, we're not in that position. We honestly can't sit here and comment really as to how they kind of feel about things, because we never experienced it. All you can kind of do is support these guys in whatever endeavour they want to go through, whether it's taking the knee, you've got to give them the support to go through that.
Yeah.
Like, you can't sit back and go, we don't think that's right. We don't know if that's right or wrong, but we have to support them because it's what that kind of minority feel is necessary, and you have to support that.
I mean, I certainly wouldn't boo them for doing it. Like, freaking even booing national anthems, like, it drives me up the wall.
It's petty, and that kind of level is petty, booing national anthems and stuff like that. Unless, of course, it's God Save the Queen, in which case it's absolutely fine.
Yes, so I was about to say, because I remember the Scotland-England game, definitely there was a lot of booing. But, like, see when they were booing the Danish national anthem and stuff like that, I'm like, get a grip.
Some of it is deep sea. England will boo top flower of Scotland. We'll boo God Save the Queen. I have never seen the purpose of booing the Croatian national anthem. What possible difference does that have to yourself? Or the Czech national anthem, or the Danish national anthem?
Didn't help us.
Nah, there's too much going on. It goes back to what we talked about last week as well, about the role of social media and the company themselves. It's really kind of for them to kind of get the finger out and fix it, and actually put some money into getting rid of these guys, shutting them down, because they have the potential to do it. They just either don't have the resource or don't want to know about it.
No, there's accountability that is not being taken. But so Italy have now won 4 World Cups and 2 European Championships.
Yep.
And I believe they have 4 stars on their badge. Your Juventus top have 3 stars. What do those 3 stars represent?
I have no idea.
Aberdeen have 2 stars, 1 for each European Cup Winners' Cup they won. Celtic have 1 star for their 1967 European Cup. I think one of those guys died again this week, which is actually crazy because we're going to reach a point where none of them will be living anymore, which is an absolute tragedy. Rangers, of course. Oh, Rangers. So, I have taken to cycling along the canal recently. I can generally do so in a couple of directions. You either go towards Glasgow, you go towards Edinburgh. Going towards Glasgow, you kind of head out to Kirkintilloch and things like that, which I've always seen as a slightly more Celtic end of Glasgow. I don't know whether that's true or not. It's just a presumption I see from the Celtic tops I see. But some Rangers fans have come out with some paint to write some messages about how excited they were about their, was it 55th championship?
Let's say yes before we get drawn into arguments.
Well, when I was going along last week, it says like RFC 55, and then there's stuff celebrating their 160th anniversary.
150 or 160.
Something like that. So they were writing that, all that, and then I went along this week, and there's been some amendments. It says RFC 55, someone spray painted over it saying 01 instead, which I appreciated. And then when it says 100 and whatever years, they've again put 0, like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or something like that.
No, we're coming up for the 9th or 10th.
And a lot of it's been scrubbed out, and Sevco's been written over it and stuff like that. It's just like, are we really having this battle on a canal towpath?
That's how it's done.
Oh, utterly crazy. It gave me a few chuckles as I went along, though. I now want to have some St Johnstone one saying most successful team in Scotland, 2K21. But yeah, what do you make of stars on football kits, John? That was going to be my question.
Well, as a Falkirk fan, it's never really bothered me.
But the thing is, right, in theory, they could put a couple on there for their Scottish Cup victories, could they not?
Yeah, you could. I think it depends on the magnitude of the star. So I have, if you're winning like the World Cup, if you're winning, maybe not European Champions, World Cups for sure, Champions Leagues for sure. Everything else, I think's a little bit more debatable.
Ooh, so you wouldn't put any stars for any domestic achievements?
Nah, I don't think you would. I can't. Like, you would never imagine St Johnstone's going to have like 2 stars over their badge for winning the League Cup and Scottish Cup in a double season.
Glasgow Rangers fans, you can write to John at the address LDN FK54.
No, I mean, fair enough. I mean, so like I say, some of it doesn't really bother me either way. Like, it's obviously for that supporter of that club to memorise something. To me, unless it's a national team or you've won the Champions League, I think they are they are the absolute pinnacle. So if you're a nation, winning the World Cup is the absolute pinnacle. If you're a European club, winning the Champions League is the absolute pinnacle. So yeah, fair enough. Honour that with a wee kind of star if you want to. I don't know.
Maybe we should have a more official system where if you have won a European Championship, you get a gold star. If you have won a second tier like a UEFA Cup, you get a silver star.
That could work.
And then basically anything else you put is some hideous colour so that no one really wants to use it. And I always remember that the team that won the UEFA Club Cup or the FIFA World Club Cup used to put that like hideous crest in the middle of their jersey, which I always found really confusing because again, I thought it was hideous and it's probably the least prestigious competition. Well, it's not the least prestigious competition. It was the most bizarre competition going because you basically played 3 Diddy teams.
And then you play the South American team.
Yeah, but even the South American team...
They take it far more seriously, though, than the European teams. It's really weird. Like, when you watch... I remember watching highlights of Corinthians against, I think it was Chelsea in Japan. Many, like, this must have been, 2012-ish, whenever Chelsea won the Champions League. And, like, this stadium is rammed full of Brazilian Corinthian fans.
Right.
And there's like a kind of smattering of like Japanese domestic Chelsea fans. It's really, really funny. Like Corinthians actually win it and they're going absolutely mental when they get back to like the airport in Brazil and they're all waiting on them with the massive flags and the flares and the songs and all that. It's amazing. It means so much more to them than it does to the Europeans.
I suppose the Champions League is the sort of success in itself, and they have something to prove because again, we don't really. Because again, I've never watched the what's their Champions League? The only time I watched the Copa Libertadores was when it was in Madrid, because I was this is a one-off. This is never going to happen again. Give it a watch, and it's kind of hard to see over here, and it's not in highlight. They used to put the Brazilian highlights on Channel 5 and stuff like that. I've not seen any of that in a while. I think Premier's where that is now, maybe.
No, I mean that is the ultimate dream, though. Is I think I've probably spoken to about before, but there is a company that do like tours to South America, and honestly, I've got my money saved up, it's ready to go. So as soon as restrictions are away, I'm going to Buenos Aires, 10 days, book an hour plate derby ticket included, San Lorenzo game potentially, get a wee kind of tour in Newell's Old Boys, trip to Montevideo, to Uruguay, hopefully see Penarol. Oh mate.
Some body armour included?
Nah, you're fine. It's just, honestly, I'm going there for like steak and wine every day for 10 days and football. It's just, I might not come back. I might just stay there. Like,
I don't see you surviving in the South American climate, but we shall see. No, another good kit news this week. My Scotland top got lost in the post. Hey! I got a refund, but I have... So this is the sleeve patch. It looks different because you have to peel off the top bit, if I can just peel it back, you can kind of see the actual
I was
one
going to say the
there.
colour looks rotten otherwise.
Yeah, so the way you iron it on, and then the the respect.
Ironic.
So, if anyone would like those, we could maybe give them away in a competition in like a year's time, and you can stick them on like a Falkirk kit or something like that.
I was get yourself like a kind of Stirling Albion top and put the badges on.
Oh, we should totally do that. If we ever had enough money for a giveaway, we should just get like 5 random kits and put like find Europa League badges and World Cup ones and stuff like that, and just stick them on.
Because you can buy like name sets as well.
Yes.
So you can get like, I don't know, like pick at least 5 top and put Ibrahimovic on the back of it.
A difficult one there. See, I remember when I worked at Sports Direct, I saw the machine that did it and the actual like template they had for putting the letters in specific places. And my biggest regret was they asked if I wanted to be trained on it, but I only intended to work there for like a month. I was like, no, I didn't want that hassle because if I muck it up, I am screwed. But yeah, interesting part of it. So, speaking of kits, you have another selection for us to look at this week, which we will not take a full half of football to go over this week. We'll be nice and brisk with our summary.
We'll try not to. Right, let's see if I'll try not to break this again.
Whilst John gets his PowerPoint presentation up, if you are interested, you can check out the Sofa Manager YouTube channel if you're listening to the audio of this to see some of the kits we are talking about. I haven't given you permission.
You've disabled me, how dare you?
I've just realised that. So if I click on participants and then I go more, what if I don't want to make you host, do I?
I don't know, there should be like a...
Bear with. How many kits do we have this week, John?
We have 5 this week. 5 clubs, 2 in the Premiership and then 3 in the lower leagues, as he tries to remember exactly who they are.
Okay. You don't remember who? Do you not have them in front of you just now?
I've got the PowerPoint. I'll get that up for you. Some of them, one in particular, like we've got like Hearts and Hibs, who both have got really quite nice kits. The Hibs one in particular could end up being one of the best ones this season, which I'm sure all the kind of viewers are delighted to have a quick look at. Instead of your face looking as confused as you are.
I'm getting there. How did I do this before? Wait.
Like kind of permissions.
Right. Try now. Sorry, viewers. Our listeners, we usually have this sorted beforehand. Hey, we're in business. So John, currently up on screen, has the Hearts home kit, which is maroon. It actually reminds me of some of the Ukios Bankus kits from way back in the day. Collar maroon, white stripe down the sleeve. And then the third kit, which is blue and navy blue vertical stripes.
Yeah. Now, what you might not notice in the third kit, I didn't notice it to begin with either, is there was a very faint outline of Tynecastle, one of the stands in it.
Kind of see it, yes.
Yeah. I think if you've seen it in person, I think it'll end up looking a lot nicer.
Yeah.
I do really quite like that.
Do you?
If they had called that like Inter Midlothian, that's fantastic.
Inter Midlothian. Do you have the Inter Milan kit in here this week, by the way?
No, not I mean, we might do a European special.
Do an international one. I'm not going to lie. For some reason, there are just certain colours that I don't see teams wearing. Blue is one of those colours for Hearts.
Yep.
And I'm sure the Tynecastle thing looks like smart and all, but it is quite plain. Like, there's no sponsor or anything like that. I actually don't like the home kit either. I think it looks like a bit old-fashioned in that sort of mid-2000s sense.
It's in that kind of unfortunate bracket where it's not retro enough.
Also, and I know they've done this for good reasons, but they've retired the number
26 for Zaliuskis.
For Zaliuskis, I am not a fan of retiring numbers in any way. Honouring numbers, absolutely. I'm not a fan of retiring numbers, but that's obviously their decision. I am not buying either of these, John. Not going to lie.
You're not? Nah. There is previous Hearts kits absolutely would have bought. This one ranks a little bit lower than that, so I probably wouldn't buy it. There's something about that third kit that's it's kind of got me hooked a little bit. In the sale, we'd buy that.
I just feel, as it's a third kit, if it was like black and white maybe, or if it was like maybe purple or even pink or something like that, like blue, can't get behind a Blue Hearts kit. No, duds, both of them to me.
Oh well, that's sorry, Hearts.
I don't like Hearts. I really don't like Hearts.
Well, we'll go across
by
the way.
Bangers. I'm buying both of these, John. Getting freaking Leith Road on the back of the...
It hurts me a wee bit, but both of these kits are just amazing, honestly. Like, the Hibs top.
Yeah, you go for it.
Amazing. Like, having the kind of city outline, certainly a Leith into the kind of castle and stuff, it's such a kind of unique touch that just absolutely makes that kit. I mean, that is one of a kind. I think every Hibs fan will want that kit.
Yes.
Just got to kind of hope to do something with it.
I know.
That's the kind of big thing about it. But it's brilliant. Even if that kind of dark green and the kind of lighter green is actually how it looks in sort of real life, that's brilliant as well. They've got the right kind of cut on the sleeves, so there's no kind of like weird kind of indent. Collar, spot on. It's just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yoma have done an absolutely unbelievable job there.
I know. I again, 10 out of 10. You've described it perfectly there. There's nothing that you would really change. I think the gradient works really well because nobody really wants to see the city bypass. I'd be curious to know if Tynecastle's like under the arm or something like that. Like under your
the back of kind of near the bottom.
Oh yeah. Well, some people. I believe the away kit, which is like white with green pinstripes, is like a throwback to an older one. I think it's pretty spot on as well. Like, I do think that's really, really smart. It's just you'd wear that to Wimbledon sort of thing.
You've got a touch of class to it. Even the kind of like walking around the collar and everything. It's got the right level of kind of detail. Again, absolutely just smashed out of the park.
My concern would be that everybody now does the thing that they've done in the home kit, and I wouldn't want that to happen either.
I mean, Falkirk doesn't really have that much of a landmark. Just like one road in, one road out.
I'm waiting for the Kelpie kit. Or I was actually talking to my brother today because he was saying Calman Juniors have gone downhill. I was like, see if they rebranded to like Falkirk Wheel FC or something like that. There's definitely something in the design they could do there, but then I was told that lots of old men would be very angry about that. But no, 10 out of 10 for these Hibernian ones. I'd be buying them both. If I was a Hibernian fan, if they were on sale, I still would buy them. But again, that's because I'm an Aberdeen fan. But from 0 out of 10, it's 10 out of 10 here.
10 out of 10, 100%. The next lot, I'm less convinced will be 10 out of 10.
Right. I don't know what we're going to look at next. So this is... Kevin O'Hara.
Now, I'll give you a laugh. When I started looking for all the kits, went through all the leagues and stuff. So, would you like to hazard a guess who was originally modelling the Dunfermline home kit?
Was it Ewan Murray?
Nope.
I don't know then.
I think ex-Falkirk.
Higginbotham?
Nah.
I don't know.
Declan McManus.
Declan
McManus was the original kind of model.
Can we be honest that Dunfermline and Falkirk are so similar that they just exchange players because they are incredibly similar teams?
They offer the same wages, probably same caliber of player, never getting out of the kind of middle two tiers.
So the home kit is the usual black and white. Vertical stripes, some slightly thinner stripes than the previous been. The away kit is a kind of purple with some green triangles on the bottom with some green trim.
Yeah.
I think these are both pretty smart, not gonna lie.
Do you?
Yeah.
The home top is just a Dunfermline home top, so I'm not... Obviously, I wouldn't buy that. It's no better nor worse than any previous attempts to try and polish a turd. As he says, wearing a black and white top.
I like the red trim on it, and I always think the logo is quite nice as well.
If it's got red numbering on the back, I think that would probably look quite well. The away kit, not sold at all. I'm not a big fan of kind of purple.
Again, this is a bit of a throwback, I believe, to something else. To some kit from the mid-90s. I think this could be a bit of a cult classic. Especially if they have a good season. And it's different. They've not, gone for something bland and boring. It's an unusual combination of colours with the sort of purple and the green. But, if it's a throwback, it'll go down well with the ultras and stuff like that. So I am thumbs up for the away kit, and I am like, you've not done a bad job with the home kit.
Yeah, no, probably the opposite.
You don't like the away kit, the home kit's fine. Okay.
Just don't. I'm not a big fan. Like I said, I don't really like kind of purple kits so much. Purple kit should be exclusively for Fiorentina, and that's it.
I can't actually think of any other purple teams off the top of my head, so you're saved there.
And the left.
Right, there you go. Are they not white technically at home anyway?
I can't remember who's next. Stirling Albion, yes.
Stirling Albion! John, you've taken pictures of the training tops here.
You reckon?
I hope so.
Allegedly, these are the home and away top, from what I could find.
I believe you. Is this £10 off already?
I know.
Prudential have done it.
As we kind of go, as I went kind of through the websites, trying to find everybody's kits, you can tell who spends a bit of money on their kind of online presence. Stirling Albion don't, believe me.
No, it's not a lot to them.
So I don't know if they are the home kits for this season, last season, training tops, casual wear. Take a pick, but that is the closest I could find to a home and away top.
Yeah, I think these are definitely the home and away tops because of the way the sponsorships are on. So the home kit is another Macron thing. It's red with a white horizontal stripe this time above the badge and the logo. And then the away kit is navy blue and nondescript. Now, one of my biggest regrets is the season that I did some announcing for them. They had this gorgeous red sort of tartan pattern with some white sleeves, and it kills me that I never went and bought that kit because it was really smart. This, it's a League 2 kit, isn't it? The blue one's especially bland. It's actually amazing that we're getting this critical of football kits now. Why don't you have a city outline on your shirt? Why isn't the Wallace Monument there that's not just on the badge?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's pretty critical. I mean, folk like myself are I think it's becoming a more and more kind of fashionable thing to look at and buy and own. So I think it's becoming more and more important for even kind of smaller, slightly more kind of obscure clubs to produce something like I think the Pollock one has kind of done the same as what Hibs have done with the kind of city outline. There's the Pac-Man kit, Loch Ness FC, these, and they'll be selling sort of these kits to random people all over the world.
Potentially. I like that idea of the sponsors chirping down the price a bit.
Yeah.
That's a really nice idea.
That is good of them. I would give them kind of credit for that. Their service when you phone them is shocking, but other than that, not too bad.
Well, the home kit I would say is the better one here. The away kit is fine. It's weird. It's like a radar sort of thing they've got on the sleeve. I think the red one might actually grow on the fans. I think it might grow.
If they have a decent season, yeah, probably. That'll be the kind of more popular one.
Let us know if there's any you'd like us to review, if there's any of these that you're buying. Because some people will be furious that we're oh, this sucks. They clearly haven't,
Probably.
Someone's just done it in paint and then accidentally put a rectangle on top of it. Right. We're all agreed
that should
there.
be the last one, I think.
Okay.
Wow.
Are they still selling? Jeez.
Yeah, it's just a classic home top. Sort of light blue, darker blue, pinstripe running right through it.
Oh, yeah.
It's quite
I
nice.
actually thought it was very similar to the Hibs one in that they had really narrow white lines, but you're right, it's 2 shades of blue.
Yeah. So I don't mind that. I think it's very kind of Stranraer.
Stranraer.
Yeah, it's just blue and blue.
The
The
Scottish
start line
version of
is
a
the sponsor.
Ferrari.
Nothing
Yeah,
really changes there. That could have been last season's, but it's nice all the same. No problem with that.
I like it. Very classic, but modern
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yep, you can see that kind of rocking up in like the kind of fifth round of the Scottish Cup. Kind of be upset. Yeah,
Maybe.
that kind of vibe.
Maybe.
As for the away top, I was a bit taken aback when I seen it at first, but it's grown on me quite a lot. I do really quite like that.
The thing about
Yellow and navy blue.
Yeah, horizontal stripes.
Yeah.
It isn't away kit in every definition, in that the colours are strikingly different. You know, you're not going to miss the other players on the pitch.
Mhm.
It reminds me of something that I can't quite put my finger on. It's kind of like a zebra crossing, but with yellow lines instead of white ones. I don't know. I like the home one better than the away one. I can't put my finger on why. I just think the away one's kind of meh.
I don't know. I like the away top, and I can't really understand why, but it is nice.
See if the away one was a white version of the home one. I think that would have been really cool. Even a red version of the home one, I think, would have been really cool.
Yeah, maybe a red one. But I think the away one is just so different, and particularly with what we've seen from League Two, it's a bit of a standout. And it works quite well with the. You know what it's like actually? It's like a kind of naval flag. Since they're sponsored by Stella Line, there you go.
So they're not a navy; they're just a boating company. Yeah. Home kit, thumbs up. Away kit, like, fine. If you've bought loads of home kits, I actually like to know how many of these kits they're selling, because if they're doing over three figures, I'm amazed.
Stranraer old enough for a lot like what kind of clubs are doing more and more, so they're being sold by Football Nation rather than the kind of club themselves. So I don't know if that's helping or hindering, certainly online sales.
Yeah.
The walk-ups will just be kind of handled by the club anyway, but I don't know if that's getting them a better outreach to randoms elsewhere in the UK or in Europe. So that'd be quite interesting to kind of know if they're actually kind of making any money out of the back of this.
Yeah. I do think the wider reach thing's fantastic, and I've kind of said to you before that is that the last one, by the way?
It is the last one.
You can probably stop sharing the screen. I kind of said to you before that a centralised platform for getting all these kits would be fantastic, and also like a 2-for-1 deal where you could do like a mystery box. So you could buy the home kit of the team that you want, and then say for an extra 25 quid you get another random one.
Aye, it would work quite well. I mean, or I don't know, a scarf or a mug, or just kind of something to get like just random tat, really.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you got a, like by accident, a Stranraer scarf, you might say, "Oh, it's just for the bants. Go to the game one weekend because I got a scarf." Or if they're away somewhere some weekend, it kind of gets you interested, and the more fans we can get through the gates, the better. Frankly,
absolutely.
Attendances in Scottish games, I think, are limited to sort of 2,000 people for these Premier Sport Cup games that are on at the moment, but we are hopefully going to go back to full stadiums later on. I believe you've been reading into this a little bit more, John, haven't you?
A little bit. So it's a kind of weird contrast now between Scotland and England for sporting attendances. So you've got now in England come the 19th of July, which is Monday coming. It's an absolute free-for-all. There's no restrictions on capacities. It's a happy days, really. My life's back, as far as I'm concerned. I'm good to go. A little bit different, in fact, a lot different in Scotland. Nicola announced, I think, was it this afternoon, kind of saying basically the whole country's moving into level 0 in Scotland. That doesn't actually mean restrictions are gone. No. It just means the kind of bare minimum of restrictions. So Scottish football, up until the beginning of August, the maximum capacity is 2,000, regardless of the size of the stadium, or 1,000 if your stadium is standing only.
Right.
So if you're United, you're only allowed 1,000 people.
If they have no seats at all.
They've got a main stand that's got wooden benches,
Right.
as far as I'm aware. But I think their stadium's sort of classed as a standing stadium.
Right.
So there'll be 1,000 maximum with these kind of games, which for lower league clubs isn't a huge issue. So for the vast majority of League One and League Two, that's irrelevant, really.
Yeah.
Averages attendances are what, anywhere between kind of 400 and 600 on a good day. It becomes a bit daft when you look at somewhere like Parkhead or Ibrox, where you're looking at like less than 10% of the capacity being allowed in. It seems a bit strange.
But my argument would be they're the ones that caused us so many COVID issues earlier on in the year with the sort of outbreaks in Glasgow that I know definitely were related to some of those Rangers celebrations, and then Celtic fans rioting at the gates of Celtic Park in large numbers as well at a time that we were all stuck at home. So yeah, I think if there's the same rule for everybody, it's parity. And to be honest, to get to Ibrox and Celtic Park, everyone generally comes from similar directions and similar channels. So if you are filtering through even, I don't know, 20,000 people, there's still going to be, kind of choke points and things like that where people are going to mix in very close proximity, albeit outdoors and things like that, which, very different to England, but it's not affecting them at the moment anyway, because neither of them are playing in these tournaments.
Celtic will be playing in the Champions League qualifiers. Oh God, when that be the 20th of July, roughly. So it's effectively the day after these. I think it's the 19th of July, same as England.
Right.
Scotland moves to level 0.
Well,
so if you're reading a football fix and you can't get into a bigger stadium in Scotland, jump on a plane, go to Manchester, come down to London. You're guaranteed a ticket.
Got the away fixture of whatever.
Aye. Rangers are playing Blackpool, the pre-season friendlies shortly.
Yeah.
In Blackpool, which will be an absolute free-for-all.
The Rangers are playing them?
I'm sure they are.
Oh, gosh. No. They're playing Real Madrid as well, aren't they?
Playing Real Madrid as well.
Is that at home?
Sure it is Ibrox as well. Because I was talking Gareth Bale playing in it.
But he might retire to play golf and play for Wales. It'll be Wales's only full-time player.
Uh-huh.
Oh dear. Well, like in the international sense. Well, that would be a bummer if that was restricted, because obviously the whole reason of organising a fixture like that is so you can get a lot of pubs and seats for a glamour fixture. You'll be pleased to know Falkirk are now 3-1 up against Albion Rovers. So they've fixed
It's coming home, boys. It's coming home.
Did they keep Callum Morrison?
Yes, they did. Yep.
That's pretty decent business. I don't know anyone else. Telfer, Dixon, much. Everyone else I don't know. Quite a small bench. You're not allowed a big bench for this competition. Maybe not.
You probably are. We usually don't have any kind of players. Attendance
has been quoted at exactly 1,000. So, I want to see actually. Like, let's see Hearts Cove Rangers. Hearts are 2-0 up, by the way. Halliday and Boyce. Jeez, that's such an OP team. Cochrane's back in the side. That's interesting. I thought he might be done there. 2,000 is their quoted attendance. Spot on. That is remarkable.
Maximum capacity.
How about who do we want to know? Let's see, Ayr. How many did Ayr have against Edinburgh City? This would probably be 1,000, shouldn't it? It doesn't say.
No, actually, they're still counting.
Aye. Who else?
They're so far spread out.
I know. Dundee against Brother Rangers is the last one I'll look at. It doesn't say either. That's weird. So it tells me the Hearts and the Falkirk one, but pretty much no one else's. Inverness, no one has in fact bothered to turn up to the game, so they haven't bothered quoting the attendance.
Oh, that's good.
There you go. What were we talking about?
Oh, you've lost me. You went off on a wee tangent there, love.
Too busy looking up and giving you scores from an event that I'll have long since passed by the time that this is published. But yeah, I think that will then about round us off for this week, in which case, shall it?
Yeah, I think that's all for us.
Before my battery goes kaput. Or plugged in now, so it's fine. So, it is a thank you for watching or listening from myself, Paul.
Yeah, thanks guys, all the best.
And have a good evening, a good afternoon, and a good morning. Goodbye.
Bye, ciao.
Ciao, ciao, Bella, ciao.